it would be impossible for me to cover all of these characters from the Rippaverse and not cover, in my humble opinion, this is no doubt one of my favorite characters. And it doesn't appear to be a character that many people gravitate toward, but I think this will be one of those characters that in the long run, as people view the character, as the story is expanded, as we learn more about this character, I think this is actually going to do very well. And maybe they discussed future books somewhere else on a stream. I'm sure that's possible. I don't catch every stream, but there were definitely hints dropped in this video right here from the Rippaverse that pretty much shows, yeah, we're creating more of these. This is not the only one. And I am glad. I'm talking about Goodyng. And I am very, very happy that Goodyng is not going to be a one and done book, because I think personally that would have been a travesty. But let's listen to what Mike Barron has to say, and he is definitely an excellent writer.
Hey folks, I'm Mike Barron. I've been writing comic books all my life. I started out with my own creations, Nexus and Badger, and I'm happy to say that both those characters are alive today.
Starting out on your own characters, I think, is probably the best way to more adequately learn how to write a comic, because if you're writing for a company and you write a certain thing, there's always suits involved with big companies like Marvel and DC. So you might write something that's actually good and the fans would gravitate toward, but the corporate heads, the suits, they don't think this is going to work. So they corral you into another direction, and you don't figure out until later on, like, hey, wait a minute, this actually would have worked. I think writing your own book, writing your own independent creation actually gives you that outlet, because you have direct feedback from the people you're writing to, and they can tell you, hey, this part of the story I really liked, or this part of the story, maybe it was too slow. And then here's something else I think some of these writers might learn. There are things that may be unorthodox about their writing style, but it works for them, right? Sometimes there's something just out of the box, completely out of the way, that a writer does, and it might violate some rule of creative writing, but it just fits that person and it works within a framework of their story. And I think this is what Mike Barron, in my humble opinion, was allowed to hone by doing his own thing. Because if you read Goodyng, I can tell you right now, and in my humble estimation, Goodyng is not a book that just anyone could have written and made it enjoyable without taking away from the type of character Goodyng is. I like my biggest look. This is the reason I'm most hype about Goodyng. In all comic books, you always have that one, I would say, Boy Scout-esque character, right? Like this makes it's like, I won't say the secret sauce, but it's something that every comic book universe, I believe, needs, right? Like that just objectively good and sound reasonable hero. And I think this is what you have in Goodyng. He's a good dude, exemplifies goodness and righteousness. And I'm telling you, when I read the book, I thought, oh man, I love this character. I love this character. It's not something I knew right out the gate when I was reading it. I knew it's not going to be something everybody likes, but I like these characters and they add moral clarity to a comic book universe. I think that's necessary. You're always going to have, your anti-heroes, that the gray area, like, maybe, I don't know about that. And then you're going to have that character that is like, no, this is the straight and narrow. This is the path that's being taken. We're not veering from that. And that's the impression I got from Goodyng. And I think Mike Baron was probably the best person to get to write this character.
Nexus is probably the most honored independent superhero comic of all time. From there, I went on to write many other titles for many other publishers. But I've always been drawn to fringe characters. And when Eric July asked me to write Goodyng, I jumped at the chance. Goodyng is the type of character I might have thought
Good
of
art,
myself.
too.
A
Good
self-made millionaire, a genius, an autodidact, and a polymath. Polymath is a master of many disciplines. Now, you may have read the first
Now, you know
Goodyng.
what's funny? And this is, I'm sure some of you are way smarter than me. This is part of what has made me love comic books all these years. I did not know what a polymath was up until Eric July announced this book. I had no idea, right? Of course, we all understand the concept, jack of all trades, master of none, but I didn't know there was an actual word that defined that. And this is one of the things I love about comics. You would think, oh, this is just for kids. You can't learn anything from that. Look, there is a lot I learned about the sciences that actually started from something I saw within the pages of a comic book. True story.
I hope so. And they say that a writer should write what he knows, but it's also the writer's job to imagine every point of view. So the writer has to put his head in whatever character he attempts to make.
How could you write a character and make that character believable to the people reading if you don't put yourself in that character's shoes? Like if I was in this situation and I have this kind of mentality, how would I think? Well, I'm going to have to, carry my thoughts out in such a way that it would be indicative of this kind of character, right? Like if you're writing, you're writing a script for a comic book and you're writing a psychopath. Well, you're probably going to have to do some studying, figure out some psychological cues of psychopaths, and you're going to have to put yourself in that frame of thought as you're writing the character to make that character's delivery to the audience more believable. This is the marks of somebody that really understands writing. Obviously, this is something that Mike Baron definitely understands.
Make real, or otherwise he'll fail. Believe it or not, Goodyng's trick against Ron Hodges in high school comes from personal experience. I had read Alpha Core and some of the other offerings that the Rippaverse has since produced, and I was determined to open the scene up, and that's why Goodyng #1 is much bigger than Goodyng in the origin and deals with matters of life and death, as most of these books do, and also with international disputes. But I was thinking of Alpha Core, and I realized that for every action there's an equal and opposite reaction, and that the existence of Alpha Core, a number of superheroes dedicated to good in Fluorspark, required the rise of another organization, and that's where Delta Base came from.
Yo, this is premium stuff, man. You know, there are many people, I'm not going to mention names, and the reason I don't mention names is because I definitely don't want to get involved in the back and forth between different creators. So I definitely, I have no desire for that. That's not the kind of energy I'm on. But there are people who have an issue with the success of this company. There are people who believe they are more talented. I'm sure you've seen people make streams, videos talking about this company. Some people who are in the industry, some people are not in the industry. And the thing I find interesting is people critique this company being new, being started by someone who wasn't a comic book creator before this point, right? So there's people that have more talent, but sometimes work beats talent. I'm not going to say most times, right? Because you have to put in the work, but I will say if you put somebody who's talented and maybe has a so-so work ethic and somebody who has a stellar work ethic and they're willing to go above and beyond. Maybe they aren't the most talented, but they're going to win every single time. I have seen this play out so many times that this is a foregone conclusion to me. I've seen it. You wonder, yo, why is this person right here beating this person? This person really knows this stuff, but that person over there is putting in maximum work and maximum effort. I see a company that's new, and from 2 years ago when it first started to now is just putting out book after book after book after book. Then you get the likes of Mike Barron, Chuck Dixon, Kanan White, Joe Bennett, Deborah Carita, different artists that are good at what they do, the Saska sisters, different people within the industry that are good at what they do. They're not slouches. All of these people are putting in the work, and this is paying off. So all of the people that have the critiques, that have the issues, whatever, this company, why are they doing this? This is trash or this is trash. Look, you may think it's trash. People recognize the hard work. They recognize the effort being put in, and they recognize, this company's only going to get better. They're like any company that is working this hard to put out product, to present something to the fans, it's only going to get better. And I see that with every book.